Good afternoon, D&D, TikTok, and beyond, and welcome to Roll for Sandwich, the series where I let fate decide my lunch. Let's go. Today's episode of Roll for Sandwich is sponsored by Bleecker Street Media and their new film, Sasquatch Sunset.
Oh, God.
This unique film follows a year in the life of an elusive Sasquatch family. I got to watch a screener copy of the film, and it is definitely a unique and interesting experience.
Did I get your bits earlier?
Sasquatch
If I didn't, I apologize.
Sunset is now playing in select theaters and
losing
opens nationwide this Friday. Without any further ado, let's get started with our roll for bread. 5, rye bread. We went ahead and used our toast bread cantrip. My plan for recording this episode was to do it all with these Gorilla Gloves on and not mention it.
I would just
But I think it's funnier if you know that it's very difficult to do anything in these gloves. All right, let's roll for Maine. 1, turtle jerky.
What?
Well, it seems not even Sasquatch eat turtle, which is probably for the best. But in this case, I have some snapping turtle jerky that I will eventually get out of the package. I can't even do it with my regular human hands. All right, so there we go. Some turtle jerky. It is kind of teriyaki seasoned. I have not eaten many reptiles in my life. I have had amphibians like frogs. I think I've tried.
Wait a minute. You just made a good point. Isn't that Emong's Bigfoot call? Chan, if you don't know about Emong's Bigfoot call, you should ask him about it sometime. Second off, what in the actual is turtle jerky?
Snake. I've heard it can be kind of fishy. Let's roll for cheese. 3, cheese curds. All right, cheese curds for the second day in a row. I probably should cut them up, but I don't really feel like struggling to cut them up with these gloves on. So here you go. Turtle jerky and cheese curds. All right, next up, let's roll for roughage. We've got 5 lettuce and 11 none. Having a leafy green seems very...
No.
They have a Bigfoot call, and they all start going to the woods going,
It's very appropriate. It worked out on Monday, but I'm not sure it's going to do a whole lot for us here today. Would have been nice to get some pickles or something, maybe mask that turtle. And as if we're not wild enough, here's the wild magic roll. 4, caviar. We've got some red lumpfish roe. It's not the most expensive caviar out there, but it is fish eggs and still wasn't super cheap. I don't mind fish eggs on top of like sushi, but I can't say I've had them in many other contexts. I think they're just gonna mostly taste salty. All right.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. Caviar are actually kind of good. Me and Emong went to this really nice steakhouse after his wedding with everybody, and we got caviar as like one of the starters or whatever. And you get it with like some type of sauce that you put it on the bread, put the sauce on, and then you put the caviar on top of it. Just maybe creme brulee, maybe I forget what it's called. It was actually really good.
All right, and last but not least,
it just tastes like salty.
20 sauce roll. Here we go. 5, kecap manis. Also known as sweet soy sauce, this Indonesian sauce is thick and syrupy like molasses and is sweeter and smokier tasting than its salty Japanese counterpart that you may be more familiar with. All right, I guess we'll do our best here to close up this sandwich. Get our toothpicks in to hold it together.
Wait, you just got soy sauce?
Cut it in half.
Caviar soy sauce? Oh my, and turkey.
And let's take a look at that.
This is going to be literally the salt mines.
Okay.
This is going to be like an Overwatch match sandwich.
Well, perhaps like the mighty Sasquatch, this sandwich should have remained undiscovered. Well, let's taste it.
I'm going to go 4.1.
The problem with jerky on a sandwich seems to always be the texture. The teriyaki flavorings are actually pretty decent.
Oh, he's not having a good time.
Every once in a while, you get a pretty
2.8
fishy note shining through. I can't really tell if it's the turtle jerky or the caviar giving me the most fishiness,
2.1?
but
2.3?
I'm not a huge fan. And there's not a whole lot on this to combat that. The sweet soy sauce goes nicely with the teriyaki flavors, but it ain't covering anything up. I'm gonna go with a 2.1 today, and I'm gonna call it Sasquatch Upset.
I changed it.
Now I gotta go find Earl and feed him these dice. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you again.
Okay, dude.
Good afternoon, D&D, TikTok, and beyond, and welcome to Roll for Sandwich, the series where I let fate decide my lunch.
That was a good one.
Let's go. Today I'm going to be using these peach dice that were given to me at the Midwest Gaming Classic in Milwaukee, Wisconsin by a viewer. Thanks. Let's get things started with our roll for bread.
Huge.
1. Croutons.
Oh my god.
Look, here
Why
comes
is this
the
on
consequences of my actions chasing me
here?
right
Wait, I
now.
thought it was gonna be like one big crouton. He's actually just got a pile of croutons.
Croutons, or as I like to call them, a bread jigsaw puzzle. My only hope now is for some very solid mains so I can still somehow pick this sandwich up. All right, let's roll for main. 10, mortadella. I recently found some of the mortadella with pistachios inside, so we're going to try that today. For the uninitiated, mortadella is basically grown-up bologna. While bologna is more uniform, mortadella features chunks of pig fat, as well as sometimes things like onions or pistachios.
Yo, Smolderkin, thank you for the 20 gifted again. Holy shit. Jack, just went for Smolderkin with the big...
Salty and delicious, and I normally wouldn't mind it on a sandwich.
Appreciate you.
In this case,
Thank you.
it's
Much love,
a
man.
little bit more solid than my bread.
Chat, what is the version of this where there's like green olives in it? I forget what it's called. My grandfather used to always get it because my grandma would buy it for him, and I swear to God he hated olive loaf. I swear to God, he never complained, not a single time. Never watched that man complain once in his entire life. She used to buy it. My grandma would buy it when she went to the store, and it would buy it for him. She said like, "Oh, he likes it. That's why I buy it." I think he literally just never complained about food ever. Like he just eat whatever like was put in front of him, no matter what. Because it was always the last thing in the fridge. It was always the last thing. I mean, I never saw him reach for it unless there was nothing left. And I'm like, I was like, I don't think he actually likes it. I think he just eats it because it's there, and he doesn't complain about that shit. He doesn't complain about it. He just does it. So it's like, stop buying it. Like, buy him something he'll actually like. She never, ever, it never got through her head. And I felt bad because I would always be sitting there. I'd be like, oh no, he's going to have to eat the olive loaf and then have to
Bread
eat the olive
puzzle.
loaf.
Next up, let's roll for our cheese. 5, Irish whiskey cheddar. This is a nice cheddar that I would call medium sharp with the rich flavor of Irish
Cosmo
whiskey.
thing they gifted as
It
well.
does not taste of actual alcohol, but the defining flavor notes of whiskey are there, which pairs really nicely with the cheddar,
looks
in my
good.
opinion. And bonus points, I was able to cut a pretty large slice right off the bat, so we're getting a little bit more structure. Next up, let's roll our roughage. 10 sour garlic pickles and 11 none. These sour garlic pickles are some of my favorite pickles. They are crisp and flavorful.
This is
and
totally
we
a
are gonna
pickle
cut
person
them long
sandwich.
ways to try to stabilize
This
our
is definitely a
sandwich
pickle
little bit
person
more.
sandwich.
Pickles
Croutons,
and cheese are a
cheese, and
great
pickle.
combination,
Yep.
and the acid from the
I
pickles
could totally
will
see
do
a
lot
pickle
to
lover
cut through
liking
the
this
fat of the
sandwich.
mortadella. Getting better with each roll. All right, time for the wild magic roll.
Yo,
10
6 months.
chopped.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
I did so much work to try and stabilize this sandwich, and now
No,
it
you didn't get to sub to turtle jerky.
doesn't matter at all. Just like the last time we made a chopped sandwich, we take the ingredients of the sandwich, not
What
the
in the
bread, chop it up finely, and we will mix our sauce into it. The last time we had a sub bun to put this back onto. Okay, last but not least, it's the D20 sauce roll. Here we go.
So he just lost all of his structural integrity. It's gone.
Nat 20. At least I get to pick the sauce. Gotta go with Kewpie on this one. Kind of backed our way into a ham salad here. The creamy and savory Kewpie mayo should be a good binder for all of this, but it is definitely going to add to the mess
Jesus
factor. We'll
Christ.
get our concoction added to our bottom slice of bread.
How the actual
And
are you
mustn't
going to eat this
forget
thing?
Our top slice
Added
of bread.
more croutons?
And then I guess the next thing to do would be to put the toothpicks in to hold it together. Get it cut in half.
Nah, just get a spoon,
And
man.
let's
Just
take
get
a look at
spoon.
the cross section. Yeah. Croutons have been lurking there on the bread list for a while now, and many of you have asked what my plan was. I didn't really have a plan. Well, what little plan I had was completely subverted by the chopped effect that we experienced.
Oh, no.
So, let's give it a
Of course it is.
taste. We've basically created a sandwich here that you eat like nachos. Experientially, it's both worse than nachos and worse than just a regular sandwich. Taste-wise, it's pretty good. A little on the salty side, especially with that many croutons, but the mortadella, cheese, pickles, and mayo all work together pretty nicely. Is this going to become
Is this
the
gonna be
next
like an
new
8-1?
hip sandwich trend? I hope not, but I'd definitely make a regular sandwich with these ingredients. I'm gonna give it a solid 6, and I'm gonna call it chopped and screwed. Taste-wise, it definitely could have been rated higher,
What?
but as a sandwich experience, not great. Have a great weekend.
No shit. Lucky Kitsune, I think of a fresh one. I appreciate it. Chopped and Screwed. That's a good name.
Good afternoon, D&D, TikTok, and beyond, and welcome to Roll for Sandwich, the series where I let fate decide my lunch. Let's go. Today I'm going to be using these green and yellow dice that were sent in by a viewer. Thanks. Let's get things started with our roll for bread. 2 freezer ends. I dug around in my freezer and pulled out this small loaf of sourdough. It's frozen, but nothing a little toasting cantrip can't take care of.
Oh, that's a W.
Next up, let's roll for our main.
No
7
turtle, please.
ham. I definitely enjoy a good ham sandwich. This is not a bad roll to start off.
Ham is good on Thanksgiving as a nice food, but otherwise, ham, it's like, yeah, it's all right. It's not my favorite. Like, I won't reach for ham. You know what I mean? Does that make sense to anyone? I talked about it during the Thanksgiving food tier
Start
list.
off with. Ham pairs well with a lot of things, so it gives us a good chance going forward to get a decent sandwich. All right, let's roll for cheese. 6 melted raclette. Raclette is a Swiss cheese, typically served melted with boiled potatoes. They use an open fire or a special type of grill to melt the cheese. I obviously don't have one of those, so I am cutting this in thin strips so that it will melt easier. And then we're gonna heat it on the stovetop. I've got my pan already warmed up, and I'm gonna drop my cheese in here. It starts melting pretty quickly. Gonna move it around a little, make sure that everything gets heated equally and that I don't burn anything. The raclette melts up pretty nice, but does have a little bit of a smell. It doesn't bother me that much, but for some people it can be quite unpleasant. And once our cheese is fully melted, we move over to our sandwich and we're gonna pour it on here. Now, ideally, we would eat this immediately, but that's
I would have stopped a little bit sooner.
not how the roll for sandwich process works, so hopefully that doesn't hurt our experience.
Yeah, chat. What is that called? That needs to go on the list immediately. Raclette? Hang on.
Sure that thing.
Yeah, I would probably would have stopped
nice,
like around
but
here.
does
That's
have
where
a
I would have
little
probably
bit
stopped.
of a- Bother me that move over to our sandwich and we're gonna pour it on here. Now, ideally, we would, but that's not how the roll for sandwich process works. So hopefully
What
that
list? Oh, you don't know about the
doesn't hurt our
list?
experience too much.
Oh no.
All right, next up, let's roll roughage. 4 potato and
on, you gotta know about
10
the list.
sour garlic pickles. I have some baked potato that I'm gonna add to the sandwich here. I'm a little bit shocked. Potato has been on the list for a while, as has raclette, but I didn't really think they were gonna get rolled together. As I mentioned before, raclette is traditionally eaten with boiled potatoes and often pickles. So far, I think this is kind of perfect. The pickles will add acid, which will nicely cut through the fat of the ham, the cheese. We've got a solid sandwich going into
I
Wild
don't know about
Magic,
the pickles, but
which
the rest looks
might
pretty good.
be our demise. All right, let's get wild. 18 finishing salt. I will take it. We have unseasoned potatoes, so adding a little bit more salt to this is okay by me. This finishing salt is thick flakes of crunchy salt, which you add at the end of a dish for presentation and texture. Pretty solid going into sauce. Let's see if we can keep it up. Last but not least, it's the D20 sauce roll. Here we go. 11, Tapatio. Tapatio is a pretty common American hot sauce that has a good kick without being incredibly spicy. Adding a little bit of heat to this sandwich, I think, was a pretty perfect roll. There are a lot of sauces that wouldn't fit with this, but I think this works.
that's gonna be fine.
Let's go ahead and get our sandwich put together here. Get our toothpicks in to
I
hold
think this
it
might be
together,
gas.
and let's get it cut in half. And let's take a look at that cross section.
Ooh.
All right. Well, on paper, this seems like it should be a banger. Hopefully that.
Dude, that
proves
was
to
in
be
the air
case.
for like an hour.
Let's
What
give
the? Dude, how high did you throw it?
I am happy to report that this is really good. That cheese really is the star. I wasn't sure how baked potato would work on a sandwich, but in this case, it's great.
I think it's gonna be like a
Doesn't add a ton
9.8.
of flavor, just a little bit of richness and some
Solid
texture.
9.8.
The pickles and hot sauce are nice and bright, which works well as a contrast. This sandwich is close to being perfect. And actually, I think it might have been had we put on the cheese last and ate it right after that. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, so as it is, I'm going to have to give this one a 9.9.
Close,
and I'm gonna call it
close.
the Swiss near miss. Thanks for
Close.
hanging out, everybody. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you again on Wednesday.
Close, actually.